Well, hey everyone, welcome back to a new part of my 1978 Volkswagen Bus restoration series here. I think you're going to like this video. In this one, we're going to give the nose a facelift here, and in particular, I'm going to show you how I fabricated this custom stinger bar that goes on the front end here. I restored both of the bumpers and added an accent color to some of these trim pieces to give the front end some more interest. So stay tuned to see how I did it. So the first thing I did for the stinger bar was I went to Oaks Fabrication or oaksfab.com and I clicked on the shop link. Now this site is pretty much dedicated to Jeep bumpers and stingers, but this stubby stinger product they have is basically what I purchased. I would suggest maybe you contact, I think the owner's name is Dylan. He's a nice guy. Suggest maybe you contact him. It's just a small little business there, and just let him know that you're going to do it like Fix It Scotty as the VW Bus one. But basically, it is this product. I think he just had me add on the additional $15 support, and that paid for the extra piece of steel that acted as the cross member there. But all this is primed and bent steel tubing. It does not include the welding and fabrication that we'll have to do for the gusset plates and to get the cross member put in. But it is still about $100 for this, which isn't too bad. It is 1 3/4 inch diameter tubing, and it's very heavy gauge. I think it's 0.12 wall, which is about, I think, 12 or 13 gauge. So it's very thick gauge steel. So it's very high quality. Another way you could possibly do it is to find a Jeep Stinger, a stubby stinger like this on eBay or Facebook Marketplace and get a used one and chop that up in the same way. But this is how I got the initial stinger pipe. The first thing I did was make angle cuts on both ends so that it fits flush on top of the bumper. Then I took the stinger to the car and made sure it was flush, level, and set up right. Next, I cut and shaped the ends of the cross member so that it sat about midway up inside of the pipe. Next, I put the whole thing in my vise and made sure everything was level and straight before I tacked on that center support. Once the center is tacked in and level, I can go ahead and finish welding it, but since I'm not very good at fabricating on tube steel, I've got some gaps, and so notice I might use a little bit of extra steel wire to fill in some of those wider gaps. Now for the base plates, I found a few of these jack plates, and they're nice thick gauge steel, but they're a little too large. So what I did was I chopped a section out of the center, and then I just re-welded them back together to shorten them a little bit. But they're nice thick plates, and I think they'll make very sturdy flanges to attach the stinger to the bumper. Well, next I took my flanges and I set them on the bumper bracket and then centered and positioned the stinger on top of the plates. And the idea here is to just get them tacked in where I want them on the car, knowing that I have the proper angle and everything centered properly. Then once I got I could finish welding them on the ground. Well, next I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to attach the stinger to the bumper bracket, and this is what I came up with. It's 2 welded 1/2 inch studs and 1 smaller M10 stud in the inside. There's not enough room to get a nut around the back inside one, so it's just going to be these 3. I played around with rib nuts and other fasteners, but this seemed to be the best approach. Well, so how I did this was I just bought regular 1/2 inch bolts, and I drilled a hole out in the bumper bracket to the size of the bolt head. Then I took the bolt to my bench grinder and I rounded the head of it. Using a magnet, I positioned the bolt with the rounded head in the middle of the hole to get it ready for welding. And there it is, all welded in. And notice that black stuff in the background is a heat cloth. I used that to protect the painted nose from getting burnt. And then I dry fit the stinger flange to make sure the bolts are fitting right. So we got the front mocked up, and I think it's looking pretty good with the stinger. And here you can see the profile of how it sticks out from the car. It kind of juts out at an angle. There is still at least a finger's worth of gap on the bottom here, and then plenty at the top here. So now that I have it all mocked up, I'm just going to do a little more filler work on the welds there and sand that up a bit. And then obviously I've sandblasted the bumper, and that's looking real good. I've done a little bit of body work already on it, just some minor dents and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be a little more body work, and that's ready for primer and paint. And we're going to go with the Eastwood epoxy primer on that, and probably just the white body color that I used. And then I'm going to use this gray. That's a dark gray single stage urethane from Summit, which is going to be cool. I'm probably going to do a stripe in the middle of the bumper there with that gray, and then I'll probably paint the entire Stinger gray as well as that grille. The back bumper was in much worse shape. I really needed a press to get this nasty, gash out of it, but all I had available to me were some heavy hammers and some elbow grease, and so I just basically pounded the crap out of it, and I think I pretty much got it back into shape. I mean, you look on both sides, they kind of curve up and back around a little bit. So I think it's pretty much in good shape. I did some filler work and a little bit of primer as a guide coat, and that'll look really good. And I don't care if it looks perfect, if it is a little bit beat up. The brackets, all sandblasted and primered already. I just put a little spray paint primer on them. And so they're ready to go. Yeah, there's still more work to do on these stupid this back bumper here. A little more fab work here. I don't know if it's me straightening it or what happened, but I've got it basically equal distance on each side here. This hole is in the middle, so that's lined up. I don't even know what these holes are for. I think that was another one and another one here. I think I'm gonna plug those. So that's some fabrication work I wanna do. But the real problem is these square holes that our little carriage bolts go in are about like a 1/4 inch off. Like the hole is actually right here. Same thing on this side. This hole right here should be like right there on the bracket, and same on the bottom. I don't know how to reconcile that. I think I'm just gonna have to weld that back up and re-drill those holes. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, I've got the gap there, that hole centered up. The gap there is the same. It's looking good. As good as it can look. But yeah, those holes don't line up. So I'm gonna have to fabricate that, weld those back up and re-drill them. All right, well, there is the bumper. I just took it off and did a bunch of work on it, and it's fitting okay now. It looks all right. Like I said, it's not gonna I'm not gonna make this thing look perfect. It's gonna look okay. Here is what I did. If you can see these little carriage bolts, I had to basically move every one of them over by one hole, one hole. And so what I did was, the hole was right there. I took a Dremel with a thin cut blade wheel, and I cut out just elongated that square. I put a copper bar underneath here and then welded in the old hole until I got to about where the new hole had to be. And I took my little Dremel with a little mini owl, and I just sort of, finished routing that out. So I did that on all four. All four just had to be moved over, just one hole over. And now they line up perfectly, and the bolts go in and they don't spin. I also had to fill in a bunch of holes. I don't know why. There was 3 holes here. Maybe they held some sort of reflector or something on there. And then I also had to weld up a bunch of little holes that were drilled on the bottom for no apparent reason. But as you can see, I got even the bottom hole to line up there. That was a factory hole. I left it. And so is that one for drainage. So yeah, that's basically it. What a pain. So now I'm going to take it off. I'm going to do a little bit of body work on the welds, and then we'll be priming everything. All right, well, I got all the stuff off, the bumper and the Stinger, both front and back. You can see my bolts here. Everything's fit, so now I'm in the process of painting. I've made this quite filthy. I'm thinking about maybe masking off the car and then maybe coming in here and just shooting the paint on the bumper again, just cleaning this up and just shooting just the bumper bracket here. We'll see. So in my workshop, I've been doing some priming here. And here is the stinger. You still can see a lot of weld marks on here. I don't know if I'll do anything with that. I'll probably just paint it. And then here's the bumpers. They're looking real good. I also got some trim rings for the hanging way up here. I sanded those. The chrome was pretty bad on them, but I sanded and primed those up. I have to shoot what I'm going to be shooting the dark gray color on the stinger, and on the faces of the bumpers I'm just going to have this being the dark gray stripe in the middle, and then I'll have to come back with the white and do, you know, the rest of the bumpers and the bumper brackets, and everything else will be the dark gray, the headlight trim rings, the stinger, that stripe, and then even the grill, which I already have primed up over there. So I've got 2 colors to paint, and so that's a couple painting sessions, and getting used to doing it in this small little workshop here. I've got a fan in that window and a fan in that window with filters, and then I've got some tarps that I kind of hang up over some of my stuff, but it's pretty small, so I don't have a lot of room to paint in here, so I have to do it in small batches. I'll bring you back in when everything's painted up. Well, my workspace is a disaster, but you know what that means. Stuff's getting done. So I just shot a couple coats of this on the pieces here. Now I'm just now realizing that this car in the photo is nowhere near that color. This dark gray is an actual, just a primer gray color. I wanted kind of it to look like primer, and it sure does. So let me show you what it looked like. Here's the headlight rings. Here's the stinger. Again, that's flat. It's a single stage, but it's flat. I went ahead and did the bumper brackets because you're not going to see them, the rear ones. They're just under the car. So I went ahead and just shot those just so I can just be done with them. Just put paint on them just to protect them. That's it. And here's the bumpers. As you can see, I really just shot the tops. The sides are not really shot, but just the tops because I'm going to be taping that off. And then there's the grill. Really looks kind of the same because it just looks like it's primered. All right, I'll bring you back in when I finish the white paint on the bumpers, and we'll put it all back together and see how it looks. All right, well, this is the final reveal of the nose. Everything's painted up and installed. I even showed it to my wife, and she has a good eye for design, and she thought it looked good, so that's probably a success. You can see I did some kind of larger fender washers for these holes just to give it more of an industrial look. So all stainless steel hardware with rubber behind it to protect it. There's the profile there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Let me show you the back. The rear bumper turned out better than I thought. It's a little bit wavy, but have you ever seen a late bay bus that didn't have a kind of a little bit of a wavy bumper? Paint job looks good. I need to just do a little wet sanding on the white, and otherwise I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks pretty darn sharp. And when I do the wheels, they're going to kind of match this color scheme as well with the wheels and hubcaps. So it's going to look really good. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. Well, I think that wraps up this video here, and if I look at my restoration checklist here, we'll see that we actually got a bunch done. We got fix and paint the rear bumper, fabricate the front bumper push bar, paint the front bumper, and paint and install the front grille, and we even painted the headlight trim ring. So we got a bunch of tasks done off our restoration list. Thanks for sticking around with me, and I'll see you on the next one.